John Carpenter's The Thing, a colossal flop with audiences and reviewers in its time, now more than a cult classic and beloved by many. To give you a brief rundown, the film follows a team of Antarctic researchers and their unfortunate discovery of an alien organism, infiltrating their team on a cellular level, once it's done with their dogs. It's up to them to ascertain who's human and who's the deadly imposter in their midst that threatens the entire human race. Undoubtedly one of director John Carpenter's finest, The Thing created a perfect cocktail of paranoia, visual terror, and isolation. So much so that it was one of Quentin Tarantino's key influences for Reservoir Dogs and Hateful Eight. The film featured renowned horror cinematographer Dean Cundey with a catalysmic soundtrack provided by Ennio Morricone with the help of Carpenter himself, ultimately making this film the pivotal piece it is today. In this video, I will be breaking down a brief 30-second clip of arguably one of the most memorable and crucial points in the film. In the sequence of shots shown, I will analyse the use of 4 key aspects of filmmaking: cinematography, sound, design, and lighting, and speak of how they individually play an important role in the film's storytelling. Specifically, I will be analysing the scene where Macready, played by Kurt Russell, is pushed to the edge by his accusatory co-workers. His life already been threatened a multitude of times, forces them to undertake a blood test to decipher who the deadly imposter is in their midst. Sound. Because of the lack of music in this scene and the silence it pronounces, the audience is forced to feel an intense suspense and anticipation to taking this test. This is to immerse the viewers in this moment. Anything other than the diegetic sizzle of the hot wire to fresh blood and the unforgiving Antarctic winds squeezing through the gaps in their crumbling base walls would significantly take away from the impact of that pivotal moment of discovery. You can even feel the cold atmosphere it exudes, not just because of its geographical location, but how cold and untrusting they've become towards each other. After an aggressive exchange between Gary, played by Donald Moffat, and Macready, the eerie silence is broken in the most fantastical way. To Macready's and the audience's surprise, we hear a shrill, heinous scream coming from Palmer's, played by David Clennon, petri dish, resonating shock with not only the audience but the entirety of the room. Though there's no music in this scene, an array of synthwave subtleties can be heard from Ennio Morricone, with the mix of fine low frequencies created by Carpenter himself, which intensifies moments of pure chaos and builds tension throughout. Design. The design played an important role in this film in effectively conveying the cold isolation and paranoia we feel throughout. In this scene, the neutral colour palette of oranges, greens and blues give the crimson visual of fresh blood displayed in the petri dish is more significant. And this is no accident. Throughout the film is the same neutral palette. The only reds we see are from gruesome gore, whether it be at the hands of the thing or finding out who is, a flare lighting a cold, desolate path, and even the thing itself, invoking a subliminal warning in the viewer's subconscious that something terrible is about to happen. But Carpenter knows this, so enjoys toying with us in painful anticipation to the next scare, as the scene illustrates with every blood-filled petri dish Macready nervously pokes. The set was meticulously designed by John Lloyd, who was an experienced production designer with a wealth of history behind him. Dean Cundey told in an interview that he was great at being able to access exactly what was needed for the story while also constructing for really good camera angles and scenic value. The area Lloyd chose was not just for its chilling surroundings, that the exterior shots have greatly benefited from, but also for its convenient isolation, which allowed the cast and crew to create as much destruction as they so desired. Along with careful consideration for the exteriors, the same methodical thinking went into the interior sets, which were painted in neutral colours such as grey, as well as many of the props, while the costumes were a mix of sombre browns, blues and greys. Because of the sombre tones throughout, they relied heavily on the lighting to add colour and vibrance, which effortlessly leads me to lighting. The vibrance we see through the lighting is present from the magenta-hued flares to the flamethrower used by the actors to create a dynamic, contrastual lighting. We see in this scene a sliver of blue light paints the wall just behind Macready, alluding to how cold he is being in this instance to his once beloved crew members. It's also worth noting that throughout the scene, the light on Macready's face is prominent, almost as if he's under a harsh spotlight, which in a metaphorical sense, he very much is. However, as the film cuts to Macready's test subjects' faces, as a juxtaposition to Macready's severe subjective lighting, they are backlit in a warm tungsten light which is illuminated from lamps in the foreground, furthering the feeling of how sane and perhaps innocent they are by comparison. The unforgiving outside was constantly bathed in a cold blue light that Dean Cundey had discovered being used on airport runways. The natural reflective surface of the illuminating snow and the cold blue lighting aided in creating the feeling of intense, isolating shivers throughout. Even as a viewer in the comfort of your own home, you can feel the sub-zero temperatures illuminating through the screen, further illustrating the isolation and the harsh, cold surroundings they inhabit. Notably, this exterior lighting creates a harsh contrastual feel to the warmth they have inside. Natural lighting is also a theme throughout, as we see from organic sources such as computer screens, torches, and overhead lights. Camera. As Knowles, played by T.K. Carter, looks to the fate of his uncooperative co-workers, we are reminded of the consequences of what could happen if they don't play by Macready's rules. Dean Cundey demonstrates this with a panning focus pull where we see it from the character's perspective and feel their anxiety. As the cut moves to Macready, we see him also looking towards his now deceased co-workers, holding out hope for the petri dish of blood before him, which will prove his intent. The undershots of Macready perfectly capture his power in this scene. Seeing it from the ill-fated crew member's point of view, he almost looks like an unraveled dictator demanding their attention and undivided trust. As the camera pans to each character with no facial cues to be seen, it is apparent to the audience that even if they were infected by the thing, how would they possibly know? Well, Carpenter always wanted a visual cue to be in place and was kind enough to gift us a subtle hint as to which crew members were still human at any point over the course of the film's runtime. Dean Cundey states on a recent Blu-ray commentary of the film, "You'll notice there's always an eye light, we call it, a little gleam in the eye of the actor. It gives life." It's hard watching this, even now for the, I've lost count, umpteenth time, and not studying each crew member's eyes for a glimmer of a clue. The suspense and paranoia is still very much prevalent. In this particular scene, but even more so in the final moments of John Carpenter's The Thing. Thank you for joining me in delving into the intricacies of John Carpenter's The Thing. I hope it was informative, if not entertaining.